Well, Jim, speaking of ones that you would like to love, our next question sent on Twitter using the hashtag CornyDriveThru from Mr. Backyard Wrestling number 1.
From what?
I guess there's a number 2. Mr. Backyard Wrestling number 1.
Okay, alrighty then.
Here's a list made by Cultaholic regarding the 10 best comedy wrestlers ever. I'd like to get Jim's thoughts on this.
10 best comedy wrestlers ever.
Before we even go into this, you have any thoughts? Who would you say, if you had to dive into that world of comedy wrestling, who would you say is the premier guy, the number one comedy wrestler of all time?
I don't even know why that people think there is a genre called comedy wrestling. If you occasionally would have guys in the wrestling business with gimmicks that lent themselves to mirth making and, hilariousness, but I've never heard it ranked like there was somehow a subgenre of wrestling that like the death matches and the hardcore matches and the scientific matches and the comedy matches. Is there a separate roster for these type of things?
These appear to be wrestlers on the main roster for WWE, at least in the past, and major names, some with AEW, some of international renown. And the criteria, I guess, just seems to be someone who's funny in the ring.
All right. Well, let's hear.
You haven't made any
example.
Well, you haven't said anything about who you think would be number one.
Because this is obviously a more modern day list, right? You said of all time a minute ago, I think. So yes. I started thinking through history.
Yes, Brute Bernard is not on this list.
Yeah, okay, well, there you go. Don't see it when he's got the fucking 2x4. All those fucking jackoffs are funny to me these days. Not funny, actually, but they're trying to be funny. Who'd be the funniest? Would it be Pockets? Or,
Jim, at number 10, Orange Cassidy.
Okay, he's only the 10th funny, because actually he's not funny at all, but he's trying to be. So is this list then more people that are trying to be funny than are funny?
Well, number 9 on the list, Hurricane Helms.
I admit I was not a regular viewer of the WWF programming or Was he there during the F or the E?
I think maybe on the barrier.
Maybe on the If a plane crashes on the border between the United States and Canada, where do they bury the survivors? I know, yeah. I got somebody at that with the post office the other day. But I always thought he was a good worker. I guess the fucking skits they did with the hurricane gimmick, he probably did some funny stuff, but I wouldn't call him a comedy guy. I think Shane's pretty decent talent.
Number 8, once again, the top 10 best comedy wrestlers ever, Heath Slater.
Okay, we praised his promo that he came out and did after they fired him, right?
Yeah, he came out there and did the promo of his career against Drew McIntyre.
Yeah, after they fired him. And that's honestly, I don't know that I've seen a Heath Slater match. Was he on anything when we were watching it?
He's done some silly stuff in the past, but I don't know how much of it, if any of it, we would have seen. He
didn't seem like a comedy guy like our little dog Pockets when we saw him speak, but who knows what's out there. That's why I hate to say anything good about anybody anymore. And somebody shows me a picture of them shoving an umbrella up their ass and opening it up and floating over the fucking ring.
Number 7 on the list, William Regal.
Oh, for heaven's sake. Now they're conflating entertaining and amusing in a wrestling context with being a comedy wrestler. William Regal is one of the best technicians in the business and can do it the proper way. And his facial expressions and the way that when he's a pompous English British heel, that he gets the piss taken, or when he's, out wrestling someone with his world of sport confusing style or whatever. He's entertaining, but would you ever consider William Regal a comedy wrestler?
He was entertaining and funny in moments, but he was a serious wrestler.
Yes.
And he wasn't being over the top silly. It was about his reactions to things, really.
Yes, which is part of wrestling. The way you react to things. And if it's different from everybody else, people notice.
Number 6 on the list.
Oh boy.
Grado.
You know, I think he belongs on the list because I met the guy on my first trip over to the UK. I didn't do wrestling events on that trip. It was just my shows, but he was there at some of the promotional things that we did. He was a nice guy. And was he at another show I was at somewhere? The point is, he's a very nice guy, but all I ever heard in the, not critiques, but the summaries of his matches, the reports of his matches, was that it was, it was a hoot for that crowd at that time. And he was coming out to Madonna music and doing a whole big over the top deal. And so he probably fits there. And he was over with it for, as those things go, for a couple years until those things go, because those things always go like that. I don't have anything bad to say about him because I've never seen any of those matches.
Wasn't he big in the plans when they tried to revive World of Sport, although it was a completely different style of wrestling than World of Sport?
It's like the revival of Kung Fu. When the title's the same and everything else completely different. They revived World of Sport without reviving World of Sport. Yes, and I guess wasn't he doing for a while there when he was hot? He was doing TNA, I guess, too, for a while. And I didn't see any of that either, obviously. And I'm not knocking a guy because I haven't seen it, but I'm assuming based on meeting him and seeing him and just hearing the descriptions of his exploits that it was kind of a tongue-in-cheek type of deal.
Number 5 on this list. I've seen this guy pictured. I've never actually said his name out loud, so I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. Kikutaro.
Oh, good Lord.
Kikutaro.
Is that the guy in the pig face, the pig mask?
I believe so, yes.
He asked me for my autograph one time.
Really?
At a fan fest. And in gimmick. And I thought it was one of the fans. And then I said to somebody else there who knew more apparently than I did, I said, look at that guy in that fucking outfit. He said, oh, that's the fucking, he wrestles. What? It's a guy in I'm just envisioning him from having seen it in the past, but he's like a cross between a guy in a pig mask and is it like a kind of a Donald Duck outfit? And he wrestles, supposedly. And he is, I guess he's Japanese because he wrestles in Japan. But I don't know because I'm not sure how to determine the ethnicity of pigs.
Number 4 on the list, Les Kellett.
Well, obviously, Les Kellett was one of the World of Sport guys in the 60s, 70s era that did the wild, cool escapes and moves and comedy spots. And I guess, as Adrian Street would say, touching people up the ass type of thing. I have not seen that much Les Kellett. I defer to you on this if you are indeed even up on Les Kellett.
I'm not terribly familiar with all of his work. I've seen clips and matches, but
I've seen a couple of things, but not enough to memorize. But again...
But for him to be in front of Kikutaro, I don't know.
Well, but no, I mean, it's the same thing as like people can point to Ricky Starr in the 50s. Oh, there's always been bullshit. Well, yes, there's always been bullshit. And the reason why some of the bullshit got over was because there wasn't constant bullshit. So, yes, Ricky Starr, and for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, Ricky Starr had a ballet dancer gimmick in the 50s, and he was a babyface. But the thing is, people also don't understand, Ricky Starr was a legit amateur shooter and could wrestle. And then when he did a cartwheel or a pirouette, especially if he did it to the fucking heel and made him look like an idiot and slapped him in the face with his foot and all that other stuff, it got over. If you had a guy doing a ballet dancer gimmick in every territory in the 50s, it would probably spell the end of the fucking wrestling business. Because this guy could go from one place to another and be totally unique and still be an athlete while doing these things. That was the attraction. And he got over huge after his run in America in England, doing the same shit. So there's always an exception to the rule. What most people don't understand is that the only reason the exception to the rule gets over is because it's the exception to the rule. If everybody then immediately is allowed to do that, then it becomes just gaga, commonplace, nobody gives a fuck. And usually the first guy doing that kind of thing is the best at it anyway, because since he's the first at doing it, it's just something that probably only he can do to begin with. But was Ricky Starr on that list?
He's not on this list, no.
Who are we talking about?
Les Kellett.
Les Kellett, same goddamn thing.
Number 4.
World of Sport. Everybody was fucking more serious, and then here comes Les Kellett or Cat Weasel. I'm popping all of the fucking mid-50s guys in the UK now. Cat Weasel.
I've seen a lot of
another,
Cat Weasel.
But he was on TV 3 times a year, maybe. Maybe. Did they put him on TV?
Or no, he was on TV. He was on TV.
Okay, sometimes with more popular live acts that they didn't necessarily want to. This goes for UK, US, or anything else. You didn't necessarily say, this guy doesn't make great television, but boy, he gets over in the live crowd. So you wouldn't feature him on television as much, but you'd book him in the house shows in a more prominent position because the people liked him live, but it was a little gaga. That's just for any number of people. Well, the Bear never wrestled on television either.
Number 3 on this list, Colt Cabana.
I heartily concur, because that was Colt's mission in life, was to be the world's funniest wrestler, even when something didn't call for fun. And you know, he, of course, now as I've referred to him sometimes as patient zero of the comedy craze. But now he'd be as serious as Carl Gotch compared to some of these jolly jokers. And also he's a grown adult man, over 6 feet tall and 200-something pounds with a good body. And he's a good worker. It's just that the personality that gets over for him is silliness. And I've just mentioned that sometimes if that's an exception, it does get over. It wasn't what we wanted to present in Ring of Honor simply because there was so much silliness everywhere else. We wanted to be different. But yeah, Colt, he can talk. He can be serious when he wants to. He didn't, as I recall, do bad commentary at one point in time. But I know a lot of people think he's funny, but he's never been funny to me. His shit ain't funny. The funny shit that he does isn't funny. All of his serious shit that he does, I think, is pretty good. But he was always trying to be funny. It was never funny to me.
So it really must be painful to him to only be number 3 on the list.
Oh, he would have loved to be number 1 because that was he was trying to do stand-up comedy. That's the thing. He wasn't bad when he was serious. I think I mentioned one time, when we had Dave Taylor come to one of the Ring of Honor events in Atlanta. And it gave him a feature match where he and Colt could do World of Sport style because Colt was good with World of Sport style. He'd spent a lot of time in England. But he couldn't do anything without that just happy grin face and the ha and the funniness and his name, or the not name, but pro wrestler on his, garage mechanic outfits fucking pocket there. He just, so it was a lost cause for trying to get him to be serious.
Number 2 on this list, Santino Marella.
Maybe we should have found number 1, because can you think of a bigger joke on a mainstream level? Because, he was actually on the big television. And everything he did was completely phony and fake and stupid and silly and to appeal to the mentality of a child. Whether dressing up as his fake sister like Jethro Bodine in the Beverly Hillbillies, or a fucking snake sock on his arm being charmed by a fucking, snake charmer and taken off on its own away from him, and the funny walk and from the time he got in the ring to the time he left, it was one big fucking joke, and it was meant to appeal to the level of a fucking 9-year-old.
Well, Jim, number one on the top.
So who
10,
can beat that?
R-Truth.
Oh, good Lord. I wouldn't have thought of him because I remember when he actually did wrestle, but you may be right, because now he's the biggest joke on the current big TV. The 24/7 belt, and obviously just playing the part of a complete fucking child-minded idiot who can't possibly believe any of the situations he's put in, and trying to cut those over-the-top promos, acting like it's ever going to get over. They've reduced him to the, basically a fucking joke. Can he ever wrestle a serious match in the WWE again? Could he ever be put in the ring again with normal people in normal matches and anybody not just giggle when they see him? No, this is not a rhetorical question.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they could.
After all of these covered up in fucking Old Spice displays and, beaten by fucking, didn't they do not only celebrities, but inanimate objects? I mean, is he just, would he have long ago asked for his release, or, said, if you're trying to run me off, let me know and I will leave. I'll go elsewhere. Why are you making me a joke? I don't know what his motivation would be to do this shit.
Is there anyone you think missing from the list that needs to be there?
Well, every other fucking funny yahoo, except they try to be funny and they're not. Half of the AEW roster, most of the independents. Well, the humor on the independent level is, something's going to be shoved up my ass, or, something's going to be fucking invisible or something, or we're all going to goddamn get in a conga line or whatever the case may be. I try not to have these people's names on the tip of my tongue. Maki Ito. She was attempting to be very funny and wasn't.
That was before the match.
But when she didn't attempt to be funny, it was. But she wasn't trying to be funny. And then again, it was so funny it was sad. I don't fucking know. Who was this? What august body of experts compiled this list?
Cultaholic.
Well, apparently somebody that compiled that list is an alcoholic.
All right, we're just throwing accusations out there.
Accusations abound here on the. Well, I'm not saying definitely for sure that whoever compiled that list is a drunken alcoholic bum lying in a gutter with a whiskey bottle in his back pocket, but a lot of people are saying it.
Jim, if one finds themselves laying in an alley drunk, a bum, they may want to check their credit score.
I've heard this. As a matter of fact, this has been reported on the news that most drunken bums laying broke and penniless in a gutter in an alley somewhere with a whiskey bottle in their back pocket have bad credit scores. And they could easily have avoided their current circumstances if they'd raised their credit score. Did you know, Brian, that the average American has 97 points they can add to their credit score, but they have no idea how to get them?
97?
97. How? The average Scoremaster user raises their credit score 61 points in 20 days or less. 61 points, less than 3 weeks. Scoremaster is the new credit science that super boosts your credit score. Forget raising your credit score a few points. That's lame. We don't want to do that. We're ramrodding that thing all the way up. Say your credit score was in the high 500s, mid 600s when you bought a new car. If you'd gone to Scoremaster first, raised the score 61 points, the average that the Scoremaster folks get, you could have saved $9,000 on your car loan. If you'd gone to Scoremaster before applying for the home loan and raised your score the 61 points, you could have saved almost $100,000 over the life of the loan. And if you own a business, you know how essential that great credit is, from getting a loan, funding projects, financing some equipment. Sooner or later, Hotchkiss is going to have that extra digit amputated. But if you go to Scoremaster first and see how super boosting your business credit score can save you a fortune, you'll be better off, because Scoremaster puts you in control of your finances, not those shady banks. As a matter of fact, I used to bank at Shady Acres First Bank and Trust, and goddamn it, they cut all the fucking trees down. The sunlight killed the whole thing. Anyway, enroll in minutes. I don't know where that was going. See how many plus points Scoremaster can add to your credit score. Just go to scoremaster.com/JCE, scoremaster.com/JCE, and super boost your credit score. Brian, would you like your credit score to be ramrodded higher?
Yes.
Well, then good. I'll do the ramming, you do the rodding.
What?
Let's make lots of money. You've got the ram, I've got the rod. Let's make lots of money.